Hey everybody, I'm Jack Reedy with Future Pastimes, and I'm the designer on Firefly Misbehavin, which is a deck builder game set in the Firefly verse. And in this video, I wanted to talk about my 5 favorite episodes to play in Misbehavin. And episodes are cards that can change up the win condition, the setup condition, or other elements of play. Now, in a standard game, the win condition is to start your turn with enough cards in your tableau. They'll give you a threshold of power depending on the number of players. But that can change with a lot of the episodes quite a bit. So let's dive in. We'll look at some of these episodes, what they do, and why I like them. So I'm going to start off with this one that's called Out of Gas, which is actually the name of one of the actual episodes from the Firefly show. And the win condition on Out of Gas is to start your turn with a ship from the market deck in your tableau. And that's it. You just have to acquire one of the ships that you can get in the market, and it can be from the core, the border, or the rim, and start your turn with that card in your tableau. So you'd have to play that card on your turn and then get back to your turn. So other players are going to have a chance to try to nab that ship or to dispatch it from your tableau. So not dissimilar in some ways to the normal win condition in terms of how you can stop somebody from winning. But it's going to be a little bit more challenging for you to defend it because it's one specific card. In some cases, it actually might be easier for you because they can't take out other stuff to stop you. They've got to go for that card. And it can be any of the ships from that market. So the factions that start with the ship, like Serenity, they can't just win with Serenity, which is already in their deck. They got to get one from the market. So it can be like an Orion Cruiser or one of the Azrevs. During setup, each faction is going to start with 2 verse tokens. So normally you only start the game with 1. And the verse tokens, they can give you additional actions. They can give you other ways to recruit. They're very handy in there. And then the other thing is it dictates what your supply set's going to be. So you'll have Shiny in the black because that's in every game. You'll have a Misbehave card. You'll have Negotiation, Crazy Ivan, and Full Burn. So that makes for an interesting game. It can be a little bit quicker because you only need to get that one card. And if you start the game with 1 or more ships in there, somebody's going to get that ship right away. It does make the cycle function for the shinies a little more important because if there are no ships, you're trying to find them in those market decks. The next one I'm going to look at is called Fully Loaded. So this episode, the win condition, you can actually win with the standard win condition. So it's power and tableau, or start your turn with a full tableau. So that means that every space is filled, but it also lets you know during setup that you're all going to use side B. So that's the reverse side. And the difference with side A and side B is that side B is the same for all the factions. You've got 10 slots, and there are no restrictions on there. So if you take a look at side A, they only have 9 slots for Serenity, so only 4 asset cards can be up there. And then some restrictions. So down here, this slot can only be a character, and this slot can only be an item. But on side B, it's no restrictions at all. So it's a kind of a level playing field, and you can win by just playing a card to every slot in there. Thing is, though, is that if you play a lot of cards that have very low defense, then they're easy to nab and they're easy to dispatch. So you may be trying to acquire expensive cards in the market because their cost is also their defense. So the higher that number it is, the easier it is for you to defend that card. So this can make for a longer game. And we did have some of the play testers who were like, I wish the game were longer, actually, because I'm getting into it, and I like seeing all the different stuff come up in the market. So we gave them that option. The next episode I want to look at is called We Are So Very Pretty. So this one has, as its win condition, start your turn by having at least 5 of your 10 starting cards in your tableau. So a similar theme there, but here you're not trying to get market cards. You're just trying to get your own starting cards in there. So it's you have a 10 card starting deck for each faction, and you want to get at least 5 of those into your tableau. Now, in the setup, each player is going to choose any 4 market cards to add to the starting deck of the player on their right. And those cards have to have that faction's verse icon in the top left corner. These cards do not count as starting cards. So again, it doesn't mean any of those cards that are added in there can count for the win condition. You're still just using your faction, but you're going to have more cards in your deck, which means you're not going to be, your first 2 turns aren't going to be drawing the same cards that you start the game with normally. You may be starting with some of these other market cards in there, but it does also give you a lot of other interesting things that you can do, and it has a really interesting effect on the game, because you'll have, for instance, Serenity will likely have a lot of the other crew members from the show, because those are the cards that not all of them, but so like Inara and Kaylee and Wash, they all have the Serenity icon. So there's a chance you're going to get a couple of those into the Serenity deck. You might have also like Tracy. He's got the Serenity icon as well. But like Alliance can get some really powerful, another Tohoku class cruiser maybe, or Jubal early. So those players get to pick. They get to go through those markets and just find 4 cards to put in there. So it makes for a pretty wild game. I really like this one a lot. The other thing is that the supply set here, and I should have mentioned this one on Fully Loaded as well, it's called Player Determined. And so the way that works is you're basically drafting them. You're going to choose somebody to go first, and they're going to pick one of any of the supply sets to put into those 4 slots that are in there. So if I can give you a visual, you're always going to have shiny and you're going to have the black. So you're going to be drafting these other slots in here. So whatever supply set you put here has to have the deal icon. Whatever one goes here has to have the fight icon. This one has to have a maneuver icon, and this one can have any of those. But some of the maneuvers have the fight icon. So you could put a maneuver up here. You could end up with 3 maneuvers, or you could end up with 3 cards that have the fight icon, because you could put that fight maneuver down here, put a Misbehave there, put a double cross there. This is a game with a lot of fight in the supply set. So Player Determined is really kind of a spicy game, because then whoever basically chooses last is going to be the one who goes first when the game starts. So you're going to flip the order there. So I love the Player Determined setup for the supply sets, because certain factions like certain supply cards more than others, and so you can try to block somebody out, or you can try to ensure that you are, having a lot more of a certain type of experience in there. The next one I want to show you is called Meet the Real You, and this one is also pretty interesting in that it changes things up a little bit. So the win condition is to start your turn with a full command area. So the command area is the lower, it's your bottom row of cards. It's where your characters and items go. The top row is your asset area. So you're starting the game with a full command area, or with a nabbed character in your tableau. So that's a character that you've picked a fight with somebody else, targeted one of their characters, and then won the fight, and you added that character to your deck. So that is a nabbed character. You have to mark a nabbed character with a verse token when it's played into your tableau. So you have to have a verse token, otherwise you can't mark it. So you're going to make sure you got one of those. Of course, if you've just won a fight, nabbing a character, you can get a verse token as a reward. And of course, you start with a verse token. And then you put that token on there. So the other thing is that if a player nabs another player's marked character, they immediately win. So what happens there is, let's say that I'm Niska, and I have nabbed Zoe from Serenity. And then I put Zoe into my command area, and I mark her with the verse token. If Serenity, or actually anybody nabs that character, they immediately win the game. They don't even have to get it into play. So they basically, if they rescue somebody, that has been nabbed. That's how you can win the game. So you first of all, you got to nab somebody, which is can be challenging. Then you got to get them into play, and then you got to hold on to them. During setup, each player is going to add 2 different cards from the supply board to their starting deck. So again, that supply set. So you will have done, again, a player-determined supply setup, and then you're going to pick 2 of these cards to put into your deck. So, yikes. And again, factions are going to use side B of their player board. So everybody is going to have, because the idea is you can have a full command area. You can just be like, I'm throwing down characters and items. And items are the thing that there are the fewest of in the game. So if you can just get a bunch of items out there, you don't have to worry about nabbed characters. People can still nab the cards or dispatch them to stop you from winning, but it's the characters that are really especially useful in this game. And you're more likely to have characters in your command area if you're just trying to fill your command area. So this one is a really, you're really going after each other. And if that's the experience that you like in Misbehavin, which is the one that I like it when there's a lot of shooting them up and interaction between the players, which leads me to the last one. And this one is aim to misbehave. So this one, the win condition is to win 3 fights. That's all you got to do, win. You mark wins with your verse tokens from the supply, or start your turn with a full tableau. So you can just fill up your tableau, but you're going to be getting into some fights because all you have to do is win 3 fights. So that's whether you've started the fight or not. If you win the fight, so yeah, you just keep a tally of how many times you've won with your verse tokens. And then during the setup, each faction starts with a shiny from the supply and a misbehave from the supply. And you do have misbehave as one of your supply sets. So it tells you to use misbehave, negotiate, the dart, double cross. The dart and double cross, those are all fight cards as well. So there's going to be a lot of fighting in this game. This one tends to be quicker as well, because you could pick a fight right on the very first turn. Whoever goes first, they look at their starting hand of cards and like, all right, well, I've got 3 of my best fight cards right there. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to go for it and see what happens. Of course, I actually had to correct myself on that, because you got to have a target out there. Although one of the things that I've worked on for an expansion is a way to fight without having any cards out there. So we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. And if not, I'll just release it as a kind of an unofficial expansion, because it doesn't require anything. But yeah, it's an interesting twist on the fight mechanism within Firefly. So those are my 5 favorite episodes to play when I'm playing. And I tend to play with the episodes more unless I'm teaching somebody the game. So if I'm teaching the game, we'll just go with the standard default of power in your tableau, because it's pretty easy to understand. And it's easy to track as well. Some of these other ones, you got to pay attention to slightly different things. But again, you're all going after the same thing. So it is easier to figure that out. Let me know if you've been playing Firefly Misbehavin, and hopefully some of you have. If you've been using any of the episode cards, let me know which ones you like. Do you still prefer the default win over an episode win? There's certain episodes that I gravitate towards. It's those 5, and we played those the most. But sometimes it's just draw one at random and see how it comes out. And been making up new episodes as well, of course, just because that's what I do. So that's it for this video, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.